Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Horrifically Well Read Blood and Said. We are so happy that you've joined us for another insightfully unhinged conversation about horror and the books that really just reflect society and don't blink in the places that other places do. If you enjoy what you hear, please make sure you like, subscribe, leave a review, leave a star rating for us. It really helps the podcast get noticed. And of course, we always want to reach as many horrifically well read friends as possible. So without further ado, on to our conversation for today.
Welcome to Horrifically Well Read, Blood and Said. It is my pleasure today to have Amber Dean, author of the debut novel Hysterical, on. You guys, if you've heard me be obnoxious about books in the past, just get ready for me to be insufferable about Hysterical because at the beginning of 2026 here, this is one of my favorite books that I have already read this year, 60 books in. This is an amazing novel. I cannot wait to get into this with you, Amber. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So this was a self-published book, yes?
Yes, it was.
Well, the whole time I kept thinking, "Thank God she had the confidence to do this. Where would we be in this world without a book like this? We need this type of stuff."
Oh
I
my gosh.
say that because, you know, I know with writers, there can be imposter syndrome and, does my voice matter? And I think I'm good, but do other people think I'm good? And it's like, you just I mean, I know it's your first book, but I'm just like, if you write anything else, I'm gonna read it. You have a way with words that I was saying to you before we started that I never mark up a book. I never sit and highlight, but there are so many lines that I feel like I could just keep as quotes and
Hmm.
moments and the way you captured behavior. I mean, it's a little, I'm just really impressed. It was like reading art,
Oh, yeah.
sickening art, but wonderful art.
Art can be, you know?
I'm blushing.
It was really awesome, and then, Adam read it, like we said, on 2 different days, and so he got to read and read all my comments, and I was like, is it how did you feel, reading my comments on top of," and he's like, "Oh, yeah," like, "Oh, I'll let you answer yourself."
Well, I have to say, this is a book that, fortunately or unfortunately, I feel like grows in its apt, astute vision of our world daily.
So my god.
And, there's some characters and things that we'll get into that I think it's like, the novel takes place in 2013,
New York City.
came out at the end of last year, correct?
Yes, it came out just December 15th,
December
20.
15th. And, like, when was the time period that you were writing this?
So it took me about 3 years. So I started this in, I think it was maybe 2022, 2023 was when I began it. And then I finished it 2025.
So it's like obviously there's some like certain things, especially in the US, that it kind of reflects, and I don't want to spoil anything, but anyone that is following our politics knows. And like it's crazy how much it reflects that considering, how long you've been writing it and everything. And I just think that like, you touch on this idea of sort of the insidiousness of the relationships between powerful men and women, and I think that you do it in such an awesome way. The way that you change the power dynamics and things in this book, I just want, to hear sort of your reflection on those themes and why you tackled them, even though they can be really difficult, and like the way that you kind of played with that.
Oh, wow. We're getting right into it.
Yes, let's
Well,
do it.
actually, let's, like, do you wanna describe your book? Because we always get so excited and we're like, we've read it, we're loving it, but, if you wanna kind of do your best to if someone were going to pick it up, how would you describe it?
So usually my little spiel is Hysterical is a psychological horror about obsession, control, and female desire that has zero interest in healing. Jesse Ann has Jessie Ann has been obsessed with her best friend for a long time. The book follows her journey to realizing that she doesn't view her desire as a problem, and the more she accepts herself, the calmer she feels and the scarier she becomes.
Loved it. I loved it. I will tell you, y I looked at the reviews, have like, it's, like, on Goodreads about f I think it was 4.59, and everybody was like, "This was so disturbingly amazing," and compared to, like, books like Boy Parts, Victorian Psycho, I've I'm immediate like, there's so many complimentary books to say this for, but you really cranked the volume even more than those books and did it in your own fun way, and obviously don't share the same themes, but, maybe if you were, algorithm-wise, they would be like, "If you like this book, read this book," but yeah, I mean, those are some comparatives. I think, if you enjoyed the psychoticness of Victorian Psycho or even like right now, Tradwife, Saratoga Schaefer, this book is for you. And it's even more wonderful, in my opinion.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So, getting back to Adam's question
Yes.
was how I played with the power dynamics
Yes.
between, basically young women and more powerful men. So, I mean, honestly, a lot of that was really based on my own experience. Like, I was 20 years old, living in New York City. I wanted to have fun. I was on the apps. I was on OkCupid and stuff. And, like, you just kind of meet these guys and they show you a good time and you kind of like part of you, allows the good time to happen, but another part of you is like, okay, this isn't going to be serious because you're too old. And another part of you is like, you're always questioning, like, why would like a 40-year-old guy be interested in like a 20-year-old? And I knew that it was because they felt it would probably be easier to manipulate a 20-year-old. So that was kind of like in the back of my mind while these things were like occurring. So, I mean, I guess it was really just based on like, that is how men act in New York City towards a 20 something woman.
So commonplace, right? It's just like what you're saying is that's the expectation and you better fall in line. And I love how your Jesse, the main character, is so svelte in her way that she can understand human behavior, and there's so many lines where you're talking about how she's able to just essentially shift that power dynamic because she basically is a few steps ahead of them, always knowing exactly what they're looking for, what their expectations are, so she becomes it. So, she's actually really like the puppet master, but they don't think that. They think they're in control, and I highlighted this is my first time where I started, like, highlighting like crazy, but it was on page 47. You said, she's going through all these amazing things, like these self-care routines of, like, getting herself ready to be amazing, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but she says, "The unfortunate truth is that women who are perceived as disposable often end up dead. When society sees a woman as expendable, her value can diminish in front of the eyes of others." And so the reality is that women who are like, basically just saying, if you're not looking the way that you should and based as a woman and on appearance, it could cost your life in certain situations.
Yeah. Absolutely. And she's a sex worker essentially. So I think she's sort of playing to the idea that she looks young. So you have to sort of manipulate them to feel a little bit like, oh, this could be my daughter, but I'm creepily attracted to her, sort of thing. And I think that's kind of what I was thinking when I wrote some of these getting ready scenes.
Yeah, well, she's got a great regimen, and there's a part it's further on in the book, but the way you're describing, it's almost like she's gotten down the idea of just all the things that a trad wife, what men want for, a societally acceptable woman. She's soft. She does the Pilates, which is like so in the news right now about, or I shouldn't say news, but social about
Yeah.
the Love is Blind guy being like, I want a woman that does Pilates because of how, you know, that just changes their body shape, but they're not around other men, they're around women and the discipline and um just looking at how she's like, "Okay, I need to not speak too fast. I need to make sure this is good," and she just understands exactly how to pull everything that they think she's so all natural, but it's all I don't wanna say a mask or facade because but I guess that's what it would be is I mean, just she is so well put together that I'm not sure where her mask ends and where she begins because she's always wearing a mask.
Yeah, I think, she definitely does it as sort of a survival tactic, you know, and the thing is she is relying on these men for money. So, without their income, she's essentially homeless, right? Like, she needs Mr. Wall Street's apartment. She needs the guy she does her clients. She needs them to keep rehiring her and reaching out, and I guess she sort of realized that just being pleasant and saying please and wow, yeah, that's so interesting. Could you please tell me more about dividends? Like, I'm so interested in hearing about it.
Yeah.
And then
She
they're like,
said
"Oh, wow."
it says he's marriage advice on Pinterest. It's like, "Be a good listener, cater to his comfort, don't forget the bedroom, don't nag. Nagging ruins a man's appetite and sours his mood." You know, it's just it's all of this, and I love how you say none of it leads to a happy marriage, but it's excellent for bait. So good.
Yeah.
So good. They're so good. I feel like the other thing, it's not just the relationships with men that we're talking about, it is the mean girl aspect that I really wanted to touch on, where she's in love with her best friend, but just I don't know, I was reading this relationship with that, and I'm like, I have guess I had a friend like that myself, where she could do everything she wanted to do and do it with whoever she wanted, but if I was close to anyone else, then it was like then she was like, "Oh, no, no, you're still mine," like, and would pull and it was, like, basically a toxic female friendship, and that was more kind of the age where we found each other in high school like Jesse did with Tinsel, and eventually, I realized, like, this really wasn't fair and it wasn't working, but Jessie, on the other hand, she's trying to work harder and harder to keep appeasing her friend, and what's interesting to me is you explore a lot of the social media aspects, which was not part of, like, when I went to high school, and I didn't have to deal with that because Jessie has to watch the pictures that are being put up and the way she's not tagged in things, and she's like, "I'm known her since high school. I'm supposed to be her best friend, and I'm, like, non-existent
She
on."
erases her from
Yeah,
all of her
or her
experiences
Instagram
that
feeds or
anyone
whatever,
sees,
and
yeah.
it's so intentional and so painful, and yet they get together every week, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this relationship, how you crafted it. Was it from a personal experience, or did you do research for it, or, how did that come about? Because I I felt the way you captured some of that suffering of just being sad and wanting to be included and loved by your friend was so well done.
Thank you. Yeah, so it was based on a real relationship I was in. Growing up, I was a very socially awkward person. So by the time I hit college, I'd kind of found like my in-person stride. You know, I was like, okay, I've got this socializing down. But then social media came up, and all of a sudden there was like this whole new layer to socializing that had to be, like, learned, and it seemed to come very naturally to a lot of people because, I hung out with, like, a lot of artists and stuff, and they just seem to express themselves so easily in these mediums, and I'd be like, "Okay, like, what do I do now?" You know? So it added another layer of anxiety, and then, yes, when I did see people who I thought were my friends out and I wasn't invited, it hurt me. And I'd sit there and I'd be like, "Why didn't you call me up? I was sitting at home not doing anything."
Right. I don't know about you, but, like, I didn't even recognize it was happening to me. I had to have other people point it out that it was like, "I think she's taking advantage of you." I don't think she is in as is involved. Like, for instance, we'd go out to eat, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'll pay," and I'm just in high school, like, we're seniors, and I'm just like, I just have a part-time job, but I'm like, we're going through the drive-thru, I'm like, "Get whatever you want, it's my treat," and then when we would go through, she'd be like, "I need you to get off the dollar menu." Or she'd be like, I'm gonna say we can hang out, but if, like, my boyfriend calls or" like, whatever, then I'm just gonna bump you, okay? Because I need you to know, like, I need to hang out with him first." And I'm like, "We're supposed to be, like, the best of friends. We are." I mean, at this point, like, she was even in our wedding, you know what I mean? And it took me a long time to realize, wow, this is not these dynamics are not fair. And I think what I found most exciting about this is like, well, how would you continue like that? Because there was something magnetic about my friend. Like, we had the best of times and we connected so well. And it was in the parts that were so wonderful were so intoxicating and wonderful. And I feel like that's what she gets with Tinsel. And yet the parts that are bad are, the highs are really high and the lows are really low. And I just really related to that.
Yeah, it's a very sort of unique form of like an abusive relationship, that's very hard to describe because you're not really trapped in it the way you would be with like a romantic partner, like it would be easy to leave, but yet you just keep going back for more like an addiction, like you need the fix. So you let
Yeah. I
it in.
I think it almost feels like when you're friends with someone like that that you've connected with at such a young age, they feel like a little bit of like a soulmate, right? Like maybe your hearts have like combined somehow and you're just gone through a lot. And so to rip that apart and to stop doing that, it's how do we even go that way? And that's what I think that Jesse's like, well, if I just try this and if I just try that and let me do this. And even though she really wants to lose it on Tinsel, she never does. And she just continues to wear that mask. And I think, that's common too, where it's like, you've now picked roles in a female friendship and a relationship. Now, I would never act like that now. I'm like, "Oh, no, I have to be honest and, I have boundaries. I've gone through therapy." Matter of fact, I had, a friend that was a work friend and then turned into more of like a closer friend. We were getting pretty close, but I kept seeing some red flags of just how negative and condemning and just critical, and I was like, "You know what? You do you." Like, this was fun while it lasted, but I'm not interested in having a repeat of any of that. It's almost like I became really good at it's like, I'm good now. I have plenty of other friends that I don't have to deal with this shit. I don't have room for that and I won't tolerate it. So it is good to know that we do learn and we change and, evolve. And I was honest about what it was, but I'm also not giving you've shown yourself enough that I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in people that are selfish
Yeah,
anymore.
absolutely.
So, with that being said, I feel that their relationship just was beautifully captured by you.
Thank you.
And, the one thing that I really love is that her name is Tinsel. You know, it's like, of course it is, right? And I think that, like, I think about tinsel obviously on, like, a Christmas tree, right? It seems like such a great idea. It's so pretty when you put it on there, but then in April, you're still finding that shit all over your house, and you're like, "Will this ever how can I ever disentangle myself from inviting this in,
It's like
essentially?"
my Easter basket
Yeah,
rocket
it
that
is.
I
It's
keep
like that,
finding.
where it's all those things, right?
Exactly.
Where you're like, okay, I vacuumed, I moved it, all that kind of stuff. Why is there tinsel under this floorboard? Like, why, how do I
Right.
keep
She's
finding
so
it? And
aptly
it's
named,
so
isn't
like
she?
insidious, but also it's pretty and it's bright and it's colorful and it makes it look so nice, right?
Absolutely. Yes, that is Tinsel, the
But
character
yet
and
everybody
plot.
like flocks to her, you
Yeah,
know?
which
She
is
doesn't
right.
even
Yeah.
have to work hard
But
for
at the same
anything.
time, none of these relationships last, right? Because, you get that impression with anyone like that, that she says it's because she didn't want them anymore. But it's almost like she's doing that before she knows they tire of her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that, but I also feel like she can walk into the dorm rooms and everyone's like,
Oh,
"Oh my
yeah.
god, she's amazing.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
so much fun. She knows how to be the same master manipulator," you
Right.
know? It's almost like the skills that Jessie has in manipulating men, where she's like they're her marionette, you know? Tinsel is more superior in manipulating women, female friendships.
But then I love the fact that Tensel's nickname for Jessie Ann is Razor, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and like that's so it's almost like Tensel knows that there's this darkness underneath Jessie Ann, right? To call her that, right?
Yeah, I think Tinsel knows Razor a little better than Jesse really fully acknowledges, you know? I think Pencil does see it, though she doesn't necessarily know the extent of it.
Right, because there's a moment of that does not involve either of them. There's a moment of almost casual violence at one point in the book while they're just kind of out, and Tencel notices that Jessie Ann's reaction is a little off. And, like, the fact that Tencel notices it, 1, makes you realize that she's noticing way more, like, Jessie Ann gives her this sort of superficial feel, and, like, in those moments, you realize Tencel is so aware of everything everyone's doing and feeling and thinking, and that she knows Jessie Ann more than Jessie Ann wants to let on or to think she does, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
And she's a bitch though because she pretends
Yeah.
she gaslights her.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. She poker faces her like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about."
Mhm.
And invalidates and makes her feel, so your naming conventions in this book are so smart, so good. I really love when they go to the party and we've got the
Mm.
pug and I'm like, "Yep, amazing. Okay.
Dictator, yes.
Yep." And then we have the
Tater,
dictator.
yes.
I will say at one point you said someone was generally characterized as an inconsiderate bastard. And I have to say, I kind of wish someone would call me that. I don't know. There's something about that of like, what do you have to do that like your name is like someone calls you like you're just
That's who
I
you're known to be.
don't know that I want to be called that, but it's just like fascinating to me.
Yes.
It's like that's what you're known as an inconsiderate bastard. So, but you have so much fun with the way you layer things of these different names, and it's fun because it doesn't. You're right. Like as a reader, or even in real life, you get these nicknames whether you're in the office or you're at for a teacher or at school, and you start kind of associating people with a one or two things, and just for the fun of it, the dictator, just so our listeners understand, it's not because he's mean, it's because, he has a freakishly long penis that should be used as a party trick that he flashes like a business card, so, uh, again, I'm very and I feel like we all know people like that, that just
Mhm.
act a fool at a party, or it's like, "Yep, yep, they'd be willing to do that," and
We get a little more disturbing context into it a little bit later, but
yes, but, you have such a fun way of keeping track of the characters and really getting into, "Oh, yeah, I've seen these type of people. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly what this is." Like
They're
in the
both intensely specific and everyone knows someone like that at the same time, right?
mhm, mhm, exactly. So, some of the things that are excuse me, happening at these parties are what I guess I always imagined would be happening with tech bros and Wall Street boys. I mean, you've really layered. I mean, there is. I think I still have cocaine in the little corners of my book just from you writing about it. At some point, I mean, he pulls out like I mean, they do so much coke
At all times of
at
the day and, like,
in
yeah.
always and all the time. And um, yeah, I is that I'm not in New York City. I've never been involved in any of those scenes, but I'm assuming that's from seeing how often people go skiing the slopes.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty regular, I'd say. Like, I think the war of drugs has been lost. Or won. I don't know, whichever side you're on, I guess.
Look, you know what? I felt like the amount of they she does a lot of drugs in here from MDMA to um it's one is what it has acid and um
Yeah, acid and, ecstasy.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, and she's just never inhibited to try anything, do anything, and then it's like wow, they're so high, it's like let's add a blunt to it, and then it's like you know what, let's get another drink, and it's just part of the party girl lifestyle. And the thing that I wanted to call up about that was she I mean, she goes hard. I mean, she's a party hard girl, right? Then she goes home, and the next morning, she never misses a workout. Now, I understand as a sex worker, that's important, but I still think, and I have said this for a long time to Adam, that I'm like, it's so crazy to me the amount of people that are like out not using alcohol, but, like, using drugs like that, but then they're, like, so careful with their body and the food they put in, and then later on, there's, a song by an artist, it's called Roxanne, and he's like there's a line in there, and it says, "She only likes cocaine and Whole Foods," and I was like, "Yeah, it about fits, doesn't it?" And that's what it kind of feels like here is, like, she's so perfect with her body and all the things that she does so that it's just did you find, like, that's the experience that people just, like, during daylight hours, they're so careful about everything, and then at night, they just trash themselves? I mean, what a balance to maintain.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily to that extreme, but yeah, I do find that that is a lot of people's lives is, you can have a six pack and do a bunch of drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause that's Mr. Wall Street, right? Where it's like, he's gonna die of a heart attack before 50, but he'll look good when he does it, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're in an Armani suit, does it really matter?
Well, Adam's from DC, and every time we go back and visit, I mean, it's could be 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and people are out getting their jog in.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Yeah, right after this, they're gonna go do some coke." And it's like, "Okay." It just is
Maybe they did before to get
yeah,
to get them
maybe,
running.
but, like, we've got to be health conscious here. So, with that being said, I wanted to get into a little bit of the thematics of, uh, fruit kept popping up for me, and I wanted to know where the concept of fruit and how you can maybe talk to our listeners about that.
So, the way she describes fruit when she's, like, fantasizing about cannibalism.
Yes.
Yes.
So I guess to me, like, fruit has always been sort of, an erotic food, like, when you split an orange in half, it looks like a vagina. And so that's sort of like what I think of, and it's really the only food you peel, and if you're peeling somebody's skin off, I imagine it would be kind of similar to, like, peeling an orange, you know?
Yeah, or even if you're peeling, like, a peach where it gets really slippery and the skin is so thin.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a little fuzzy.
And that, pit in the middle's kind of eye-like that you're pulling out.
Exactly, about the same size as a Kegel weight, you know? So
Yes, ma'am. Uh, it's like, I cannot tell you the amount of okay, I normally and it's funny, Amber, because in the reviews, most people are like, "Ooh, I don't usually read that intense," and neither do I, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Your level of writing about her fantasies,
Yeah, I think the mixture between it
unhinged.
really happening and the fantasizing of it leads to this really interesting, like, dreamlike, but all too physical at the same time aspects to the really almost like we're, like, saying hello, waving to extreme horror at times, I think, in this book, in a way that, like, I don't wanna say is accessible, but I feel like a lot of
Yeah,
people that would never touch an extreme horror book will love this book, even though I think at times it's more disgusting than a lot of extreme horror books I've read,
you're
and I mean that as a
yeah, I was
compliment.
like, "You're wel well."
yeah, I guess to that point, what I was thinking with, like, all of her fantasizing and stuff, it's like, I feel like so often I'm watching movies or I'm reading a book, and there's this idea that somebody just snaps one day,
Yeah.
like this nice church-going lady, and then I wake up one morning and I stab my husband in the face. And to me, I just cannot imagine going to that level of violence over really anything. Like, I'm myself, like, a very, like, peaceful person, not violent at all. So, for me to really go to that extreme, I feel like I would have had to think about it over and over and rehearse it in my head, like, so many times to the point where the action actually has to occur. So, I
That
guess for
makes a lot of
me
sense.
it was almost
I
like she's fetishizing it, like she lives the fantasy, she lives the fetish in her head until eventually, your thoughts lead to actions.
And I love that initially, the actual, act when it happens the first time, and I don't wanna get into any spoils of who, when, where, and all that kinda stuff, but there's an almost, like, anticlimax for her, right? Where, like, because she has had these thoughts and, these things for so long. It's over so fast for her that it's almost like because of that, like as a reader and almost in her head, it escalates things that it's like she's gonna have to create these fantasies and make them happen much more in a real fashion then because it
She
didn't
killed
happen that.
once and she needs to do again.
Well, yes, but at the same time, when she did it, it was much more, like, unplanned,
Right.
and then also, like, she didn't get to enjoy it in the way that her fantasies allow her to enjoy it, right?
Okay, so basically she had premature ejaculation.
Well, that's
Like
what I
going
meant
into
by anticlimax, yes.
okay, but I'm gonna say it because look, we're talking about
Mhm.
that's really what it is because she is so sexually turned on by these fantasies. I
Yes.
mean, the amount of times that is the big part about it. I mean,
Mhm.
whether she's actually committing a true act of, you know, violence and killing someone, or she's fantasizing it, or remembering what
Mhm.
she's done. I mean, she is so sexually aroused.
Yeah, it is definitely a sexual fetish for sure. That's what she's into.
Yeah. And, you know, I feel like when there's a time when you're trying to say, like, well, how unhinged is this book? Like, what do you mean? Like, is she? And Jessie, like, is considered to be a pescatarian. She is not interested in eating meat, but she buys meat and she buys eggs so that she can just stick her hands into raw meat and
You don't
just,
do that?
yeah, no, just really, what's it going to be like? I mean, she really commits and learns and, you
All I
know,
could think about is that.
that, and she's like, and my panties are soaked. I
Yeah.
mean, it is just the eroticism of
Well,
this.
all I could think about is that is the, like, extreme, like, the scene from American Pie where they're like, "How do you describe it?" "Oh, it's like warm apple pie." It's like she's taking that and she's turning it into something that is so much more gloriously unhinged.
You know what?
I loved it.
You know what? You're not wrong. That is so true. What do you think about that, Amber?
Honestly, growing up, American Pie was one of my favorite movies, so I
Right?
pointed my origin story.
It's like cold ground beef.
Amazing, amazing. But no, your descriptions for that, I mean, the way that you write a blank was like this, and I mean, I don't know, it felt like I was reading like I don't want to say like a poetry or
It is.
or
There
prose,
is a beauty to the disturbingness of it.
but all
It
your
is
lines. It's
poetry,
beyond
yes.
just that though. Like one of my favorite lines, like I thought, man, I could actually get this like as a quote, but it's just a simple line. It says, "It's the morning's coming up." It's like overnight, and
Mhm.
it says, "The sky's bruising into morning."
Amazing.
I mean, and it's like this throughout the whole book, interspersed with the violence and all these other things. You have these, I mean, gorgeous writings. And I'm like, that is what it is. Like, if you've ever driven overnight, and it starts to like become from black to like the darker blue, the lighter blues, the purples. And it is. It
It's
looks
a
like a
perfect
bruise. And I never
description, yeah.
thought about that. I mean, did you go to school for writing or, where do you come up with these things in your brain? It's so pretty.
So, I did not go to school for writing, I went to school for psychology and marketing.
There you go.
I guess when I'm coming up with the descriptions, I kind of think of, like first I think of something pretty, and then I think, "How can I make it disgusting?" So, I guess first it starts nice, and then I kind of, like, you know, how do you describe a sunrise and make it darker? It's kind of like a
Well,
bruise, you know?
yeah, you do that so many times. I'm not gonna share what it is, but there's a part where you described something about lungs. I was thoroughly yucked. Like, I was like, "This
Mhm.
is incredible, but it is disgusting in the best possible way." It's like even in one of the Goodreads reviews, it was like, "Man, I am so, like, on a trip of, I don't know, like, energized or euphoric." Like, I don't know how you till you finish this, it is I kind of felt like a humming in my body of just I don't know, because it was, like, capturing female rage, and they do wanna get into sections of patriarchy and all this stuff, but it's like the writing plus what's happening, you just I don't know that I've had this much fun with a book. Like, I
Mhm.
definitely feel like out of all the books that I've read, you're vying for, like, place 1, place 2 for me in my heart right now for 2026. Like, I just absolutely loved it, and I'll fight anybody that has anything to say about it otherwise.
It definitely feels like that euphoric night out that veers into dangerousness, which almost makes it more fun. And, like and that's kind of like the place where, Jessie Ann lives, right? In that kind of thing where you're like, "I know this can't last forever, but there's so much of this that I know I'll never be able to experience in any other time of my life and in any other way, so I'm going to enjoy it for what it is for that." Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think she really exists in that place where you're like, you're with your friends and you're partying and you just never want the night to end, you know? And you just want it to keep going and you're feeling so good and you're like, "Oh, I just love you guys, you know?"
But you also, like, tap into, like, the underlying emotion so well too, because even within that, there's this, like, inherent sadness of feeling like, that kind of, like, I'm in a room full of people and alone at the same time because, like, that inner you is not connecting at the same time, and I think that that, like, juxtaposition of those 2 things kind of, like, is the heart as to why she needs tinsel so much because she needs someone to see her and how painful it is that tinsel gives her just enough times that she feels like she is seen to go back, but never getting it in that sort of long-term thing that I think people as human beings crave that type of connection.
Yeah. Um, she definitely does have that loneliness in her and that neediness. And I think she also sort of pushes it down and compartmentalizes it because on some level she kind of knows that people don't necessarily see her as lonely or think she should be lonely for whatever reason. So she doesn't really ask for help or express that need. She just keeps going, you know, and hoping things change if she just changes parts of herself, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, and I wanna touch on her as an animal lover. And the fact that, like, she loves this cat that she has so much, and, like, that is, like, part of her she moves from place to place, right? At the beginning, it's like, "I got this, I got this, I got my cat." It's like, talks about that and, like, that connection that we, can have, with animals, and just kinda wanted to see I know in the back of the book it says that you have your rescue animals and those things
Yes,
too, and
and your
and we do
cats.
too.
Yes.
And I don't know if you hear our cat every now and
I
again.
do,
It's
I do, yes.
I
something
don't know why she's acting up right now, okay, but this is Magnolia.
she loved this book.
She really wants to be on. She's been probably one of the more difficult ones to she was what's that called? A calico, and she probably was a scaredy cat for 5 years, would never come out, and then we had a rescue baby that was abandoned that we had to bottle feed, and she was like, "You know what? I'm gonna start liking this," and it was like he brought her out, and now she's an entire full cat that we're finally getting to understand and love because she just had no desire in even doing it, and now she's on the show. I mean, look at her progress.
Aw, that's amazing. Yeah, I do. I have 4, rescue cats. They all have their own special stories, and the cat in the book is based on my real cat by the same name,
And how do
Pashimu.
you pronounce it?
It's Pashimu. It's,
That's pretty.
Russian
Okay,
for Y.
Poshimu, that's really cute. I didn't know
Yeah,
if I was like Pokamu, Pachamu, but Poshimu, really
yeah.
pretty.
So it's the Russian word for Y, and, um, yeah, she was found during Hurricane Sandy in New York City.
So
She is
cool.
very scared and very timid. It took my husband about 7 years to be able to pet her.
Okay, so
Wow.
she is very similar to Magnolia. She hated
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, she did.
She's
I
over
mean, she's still not
smiling.
sure about it.
Yeah, yeah, she's still not sure. I always tell my husband that this is, like, the one night stand from hell. She's just waiting for it to be over.
I love it.
But, yeah, so she's a real cat, and yeah.
Well, I love that you have that heart for rescue animals. We absolutely feel that way, and there's something about a rescue animal that you take from outside to in. They just have this, in my opinion, from the ones that I've had that didn't have that experience now, it's like there's this level of, "Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for caring for me." There's, like, this closeness that's, they behave different.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing, and I feel like the trust they have in you is so great, and I love seeing their personalities evolve, you know, like, when you first
Yes.
bring them in, they're always a little bit There's something always a little off, but
Uh,
then they heal and they grow and
yes.
just wonderful. Yeah, I love.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Mhm.
Speaking of cats, there's a part I wanna get into the patriarchy here. There's a part where the
It's
one
always
guy
bringing
calls her kitten, and I was like, "That motherfucker." I just kitten, and it's like and then at one point she says, "Why would he call me that?" Like, as if cats aren't apex predators, and it's like,
Yep.
"You're damn right." But let's get into some of the bullshit that's within here in the patriarchy, and Adam, what did you notice that from you always I mean, I feel frustrated with men, but it's crazy how much you as a white cis man, how much you I don't know if anybody hates men more than you. Kidding.
I
Like, in
mean,
our house, all the kids call him, like, emotionally, like, he's just as like, female, I guess, as they're like, "Dad," he's like, "I hope my girls are lesbians.
yeah.
I don't even want them to be with a man." I'm like,
Well, I think the thing is that, like, men are never more comfortable than when they're with a man that thinks they think the same way that they do, and I don't, yet they, at many times in my life, they've had conversations and told me things that I'm like, "You are fucking gross," you know? And I think what I love about Mr. Wall Street is, like, ultimately what he's doing is kinda gross. Not kind of. The fact that he, at one point, had, like, a wife, a girlfriend, and a mistress, kinda thing, and that he's has them up in different places, but he plays himself off as such a good guy, right? And the one that understands her, he's the one that wants to protect her and all of these things, but it's like, at different points and ultimately, at some point, that mask is always gonna slip, and it's always gonna be like, "I don't see you as a person. You are a possession, and this is power, and my power is ultimately and my happiness and whatever it is going to be the most important thing." And, like, I think that the way that you show that in this book is, like, it's almost like, and again, not to get into any kind of spoilers, but it's like, for Jessie Ann, it's like, it is something that kind of pushes that, like, level over where it's like, "Okay, I'm past this point now," where, like, I see people for what they are, and it's like, I'm gonna be who I wanna be if everyone else gets to be who, what they wanna be, right?
which is very empowering.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it, and I think often women are very hopeful people, like, they hope this is as good as, like, it seems on the surface, but there's always a part of you that knows, "Yeah, this guy's full of shit," like, it's never this good, and then it always starts little, right? And then it grows bigger, and you're like, "Yep, you're exactly who I thought you were," and you're kind of,
Yeah,
like, it in yourself for,
yep,
like, even believing it was something else.
yep. There's literally a part in the book that I'm writing in the margins, and I'm like, "Yep, see, you can never trust men."
Yep.
Like, you just of course, this is what happens, like, it
And it's funny because, like, the book opens up with her leaving this, like, very stereotypically early 20s DJ, gross bro dude, and she makes the comment that, like, they're always allowed to be boys, right? They're never allowed to grow up.
Yes.
And then you meet Mr. Wall Street, and you ultimately initially, you're like, "Oh, okay, so now she's like, okay, this is what someone looks like that has matured and grown up." But he is the same exact person that that DJ is, right?
Yeah, essentially just in a suit.
A lot more money.
Yeah.
And it's like, when these people get money, they do just the most fucked up stuff with it. And there's a point where Jessie Ann sees something that's really, really disturbing. And, she kind of goes to Mr. Wall Street to be like, "Oh my God," like, she's really hoping you don't know that this is happening. And then she realizes not only does he know, but he's ultimately causing it to happen, or
He
part
doesn't.
of it, kind of thing. And it's like that sort of devastation of, like, not only are you an asshole, but you're dangerous, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's why I made that comment of, like, "You never can trust men," 'cause it is, this comes out when he's around other men, and it's the worst men of the worst men, like, kind of just entitled. Money, power, they're used to this, and it's And it's like, yeah, of course, once they're in that type of it's like, of course, they're gonna act the way that you would hope men would not act, and it just comes out.
And it's really interesting that, like, it's not exactly the first time that you realize, something might be off, but, like, the one
Well, that
thing that
must be you having your sensitivity, because to me, I was genuinely shocked.
oh, no, well, I'm talking about way before
Oh,
that.
oh.
There's the part where she messages him because it's what, Laxative, another great name.
Yes,
When
yes,
Laxative
positive.
is trying to come up to the apartment and she texts Mr. Wall Street, like, "Please
Oh,
be there. I hope you're there." And he's like, all caps, "In Vegas with the boys. See you, with just a you
yeah,
when I get back." And it's like, "You're that guy." So,
yeah.
and she even is kinda like, "Huh, interesting. He's never sent a message like that before." And you kind of are getting that juxtaposition of, like, you think he's so different from this man that's trying to take advantage of her when really he's just another one.
Yeah, I think that's it, and then, like, really the first time she, like, heavily is like, "Okay, something's up with Mr. Wall Street," is when she actually sees him around other men. Like, until that
Yes.
point, it had really just been them alone in their little bubble,
And
you
I
Yeah.
know?
also love this idea that he's painted this girlfriend as this crazy person, right? She's hysterical, she's borderline personality, and then she sees her out and it's like, this is a lovely woman,
Right.
And it really makes you think again, it's like, okay, men are just painting all of these women as these emotional, hysterical people, but really maybe she's just having the right reaction to finding out that this guy that you think is essentially your spouse has kept women in other places and all this kind of stuff. It's like, is that not the right reaction to break his shit and yell at him? Because I think it is a very much normal reaction, right?
I mean, sure, and, like, who knows if that even happened, right?
Right.
Oh my god, I love that scene where he's describing how crazy she is and what she did to his record
Mhm.
player. I mean, that is a scene that you've written that I just feel like I will not
Yeah, but then you look back and you're like,
did it even
did it
happen?
happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't trust it. Also, I wanted to ask you, there's a part where Mr. Wall Street takes her out to have, this really high-end
She
sushi, and they order uni, and I was wondering if you've actually ever tried it.
because I want it.
No, I don't want it.
You don't want it?
No.
Sorry, it sounded good.
No, actually, the reason why is a person I know said, like, I mean, they will eat everything and anything, and they were like, "The only thing I've never liked is uni," but you do say that there's
Normally it's
places that
rancid. Yeah.
perform it yeah, that it's rancid, so this one was done well. So have you had it, and what are your thoughts?
Oh, a rich guy in New York City really did take me to a sushi place and told me about umi. And that was really good. And then I had it one other time in New Orleans at this really authentic Japanese place, and they had it on, like, their super special menu, and that one was really good too. So I've only had it twice in my life
Okay,
at
Adam, you're gonna have
specific
to give it a try.
places.
You gotta go to the
So
super authentic.
they are sea urchin gonads, is what uni is. Interesting.
Really?
Oh, really?
I didn't know it was gonads.
So it's like, Pacific Ocean
Yeah, Rocky Mountain
instead of
oyster,
Rocky Mountain oysters,
but, it is the delicacy, it's, like, the highest of but
you make it sound really
you
good,
do
I'll tell
you
you that
do,
much.
and the sushi that you're talking about in this book, it all seems and the sake and all like, I'm like, "Damn, that all sounds good," 'cause, we love eating sushi as is, but you did make me wanna take a sushi class, I will say that. Probably shouldn't feel like that right now, but I really still do because I was like, "You're right, it is we eat so much of it." Our exchange student probably tries to make
Mhm.
a sushi bowl a day, or orders one a day.
I will say I will be a little worried if you start, looking up ways to make
Yeah.
certain delicacies. I'll watch my back.
I need to get a really sharp knife and really skilled at flaying.
Do you?
Um, but no, I mean, this thing of when Adam touched on it is like, did you realize when you were writing it for 2 or 3 years that you'd be when this is releasing, it's like, "Oh, and you're releasing this in the middle of Epstein files." It's like, "What?" It's doing its own marketing job.
Yeah, I mean, that is really crazy, right? Like, it feels very timely, and I actually wasn't even aware of female rage as, like, the book genre while I was writing
Mhm.
it. I had mainly read, like, American Psycho, and I just thought this would be so much better if it was a girl and she was 20s. poor.
Yep.
And so then, yeah, that's kind of how, like, the idea started, and I felt like I had all these, like, really rich experiences to pull from to make it feel very authentic, and, I mean, I guess the crazy thing is that I was in New York City living there while Jeffrey Epstein was being a creep. Oh,
Oof.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess, maybe it was just an energy in the air.
Yeah.
But even just like when you're saying it's like maybe just like a complicit, or when you're in those higher levels, maybe you felt like an energy that's just going through of this could easily start happening, and the trafficking and just the nature of boys protecting boys, and power, and lawlessness, I guess.
Well, I think that even the work that Jessie Ann does, there's a fine line where that could get so scary so fast in what she does,
Oh yeah.
and is dependent on having clients that you trust, right? And it only takes one that you don't to end up dead or in a really horrible position. The fact that you have to worry about that pretty much any point, like at any point that any of these people are going out with these men, that is something you have to think about. The fact that she has, her hollowed out book with her multiple, it's almost like her levels of weapons. Is it that I just have to run away? Do I need to like really neutralize, or am I fighting for my life? It's like she has the three levels of weapons in this book, which is like so telling of what life is like amongst men, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, and then it happens, but
Yep.
it's sort of when she's on a date, not with hands, right? So, I feel like that's even more telling, like,
Yes.
I didn't want to really stigmatize sex work or the fetish scene in this book, but I did kind of wanna highlight, like, you don't have to go to a fetish party to get raped. You don't have to be a sex
Nope.
worker to get raped.
Right.
Like, she was doing her friend a favor, then this guy decides to
Yep.
just push his way in,
Yep.
and there you go.
If anything, I feel like the people that she was using, or clients for the
She
sex work,
found
she
respectful
did,
for what it,
for what it
yeah.
is, and the boundaries,
Yep.
and agreeing to, consent for.
Yep.
There's a part though when you said about consent, you were like in the book and you said still laying down in stillness is consent. And I was like, damn, if that's not how people assume, right? It's like, well, she didn't fight me back, so it was consent, right?
Yeah. When
Um,
really it could be fear for your life, it
could
could
be
be, yeah.
unconscious,
Mhm.
Yeah.
whatever.
I think actually something that a lot of people might miss about Jessie Ann is, like, she's a heavy misogynist, like, in the whole book. Her relationship with Tinsel, she pretty much goes about it in the same way a super controlling man would, right? Like,
Wow.
she
Great
gets
point.
yeah, like, if Tinsel's not doing what she wants, she gets angry, she
Yeah.
feels like, Tinsel should always involve me, I should know where she is all the time, why isn't
Constant
she
text
doing this for
messages of
me?
like, "Where are you? What are you doing? What are you talking what?"
Yeah, she's heavily concerned with Tinsel to a very, like, controlling level. And then I felt like that line was sort of like my way of being like, yeah, like that's how she sees other women, the same way a lot of misogynistic men see women. You're not
Do you think
moving,
she's
so
like
I guess it's a yes.
basically,
Say no.
yeah. Do you think basically maybe it's like transference from what she experiences in all these circles, that like now she has to be so submissive, and even though she's playing the part and masking that, she turns around and everything she's absorbed like weaponizes it onto Jessie Ann, and is
Or to Tinsel.
doesn't mean to tinsel, and she's but because she is a predator.
Yeah, I think she's definitely a predator, but I think she's sort of also a product of her environment,
The
right?
Yeah.
Like
yes.
Ensel's her only girlfriend, really, like, the only female
Right.
she hangs out
Right,
with
right,
for the
right.
most part. So she's really surrounded by men all the time, and they're pretty, like,
Typical men
sexist
behavior.
older men, so that's how she behaves in relationships, especially romantic ones, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of, like, I think speaks to how normalized this system of patriarchy and misogyny has become, that even a woman attracted to women still goes about it in a very misogynistic way.
It's
Wow.
very toxic, basically. That's
Yeah.
what I was saying about the transference, and I think you said it so much better, which was that if you're in that environment constantly, you start behaving and adapting
Yeah.
and flowing into that, so you don't even realize that you're
That is such a
projecting it onto others because it's just the lifestyle you're living.
yeah, what a fascinating, like, concept, like, that's
Yeah,
so interesting. That
and there
makes me
comes
wanna go back and
I
read it
know, and
again.
there comes the psychology
Yeah,
lens,
yeah.
right? I will say without saying a single spoiler, I think you know how to end a book
Oh,
really
one of the
well.
most satisfying endings
Yes,
I've read in so long.
yes.
Thank you, because I feel like you could have done so many things, and I would have totally understood, but you ended this book so perfectly to make me just, like, sorta oh,
Satisfying. It was like,
perfect.
this is like one of those things, like, if it was a movie that you'd be like, "You gotta come over and watch this."
Yeah,
You got and sit and pause and talk, but, books are so personal this way, so
yeah,
hopefully we can have more people that are reading this so we can talk about it like that because it's one of those things of really is set up as just a full art masterpiece for the end. And you know how in movies they have, like, the last 20 minutes is like a full out just fucking battle scene maybe or, full of but that's kind of what you do, but it's the most,
intimately done way, yeah.
unhinged, beautiful, like and she is full blown psychotic.
She is
Let's
yep,
go. Let's go. And it's like maybe what, last 30 pages or so? And it's done so well. And it's just, I mean, if I could see it cinematically of just being like, watch this shit take off and and it
mhm,
goes. And you never lose the pacing. You never lose the words. I mean, it just keeps cranking up, cranking up, cranking up, getting grosser and then it ends in a way that you're like, that was amazing.
yep.
Now I need a cigarette. Even though nope, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's just man, you just take all the themes that we just discussed and you wrap it up into a bow.
So, yeah, I was just wondering, like, was that the ending you always had in mind, like, as you were writing this? Or were you like, "Okay, I'm doing this," like, as you kind of got to it?
So this was the 3rd ending. This was ending number 3. The first one was much calmer, much more boring, also not very satisfying. Then the second one, we were, like, almost there, and then this one I was like, "Yeah, we have to commit to this full
Yes.
on, like, we're going for it, the whole 9 yards."
So, yeah, so the last thing before we kinda start to wrap up, I wanted to say, like, when you kind of, like, had whether it's editors, early readers, did you warn them? And did they say, like, "Are you okay?" as they're reading it?
Actually, I didn't warn them at all because I feel like it's a horror book, and lately
Yeah.
I've been reading so many horror books that I don't find very horrifying, and I'm like, "This feels more like a family drama than like,
Yes. So
horror."
true. So true.
And, so no, I'm like, "Yeah, it's horror, it's pretty scary, yeah, there will be gore."
Will.
I think you're right though, Amber, because it was a horror book.
It is horrific. That is the point,
But
right? Yeah.
it's not but it's intense, it's
Mhm.
mysterious, you don't know what's, gonna happen. It has those layers of like, shit.
The danger's coming from everywhere, you never know
Yeah.
where, yeah.
Yes. Like I said, just prepared for me to be obnoxious about how
Yes.
much we loved it because it is something really special. And I feel like I've had a lot of people recently being like, I just can't find an
Mhm.
adequate star read. Like I'm
Yep.
just jonesing for a book. This is a book I could stick in their hands and be like, I'm gonna stick my reputation on this.
Mhm.
If you don't love it, let's stop being friends.
Yeah. This
It's
isn't
your
work
fault.
this isn't
This isn't
working out.
working. 'Cause and it's yes, it's really, really gross, and they need to understand that going into it.
Maybe.
Okay. But, the other book that I read, this year that I really loved is Dig by J.H. Marker. They're both horror books,
Mhm.
but they're entirely different. I mean, one is dealing with horror that is actual, like, you know, monster type. Yeah,
Supernatural, like, yeah.
this isn't, it's still in the horror spectrum, but it is entirely different. So again, if it's like you enjoyed the unhingedness of Victorian Psycho, but want way more, if you've ever had relationships with girls that are complicated or been around bros that just behave like this
Mhm.
or felt like you had to just dress yourself in a way to the patriarchy and also just really want to read some beautiful ways that Amber writes to combine words. I mean, I think you're going to tab it and mark it up too because it's I'm just a I I'm in awe of the talent that you had to be able to do that, to gross me out, but also keep me going of like, wow, this is so pretty. And I think that's its own talent, honestly. Like that's wild.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy you feel that way.
Like,
It's that
wow, that
push
was
and pull,
it
right?
is. I was like gonna say seesaw. It's like, wow, that was beautiful. There's
"Hey,
something
look at this, the most beautiful thing you ever see. Hey, look at this, the most disgusting thing you ever see."
yes.
It's like, I don't know what it's gonna be, but, it's gonna be something.
Yeah,
Like
either way, I am freaking
yes,
entertained and
and
engaged.
in the back here, you promise us that the second book is in progress, so is there anything you can say about that aside from it's happening?
So I'm exploring cults
Ooh,
and the power dynamics that exist there,
amazing.
and how a lot of people are very much societally conditioned to be the perfect cult follower.
So you're continuing to reflect our society is what you're saying.
That's what I'm hearing.
Well, it's kind of a horror show, so
Yeah, and so much someone needs to do this work, and I know you're gonna show up so
Yes,
well.
yes.
I would just love to see her and Amber and Saratoga Schaefer and, like, the authors like that, that are writing books like this
Mhm.
on a panel of just the
Oh, yeah.
patriarchy and the bullshit right now, and I mean, I would
Yep.
just take my money.
Well, yeah, you are. You're taking our money whenever
You know what I
it
mean?
comes.
Because you
Yes.
guys are talking about the things, you're doing the work that
Mhm,
needs to be done and putting words into how we're all feeling and your book specifically.
mhm.
What is the timeline that we could expect this next book or you're thinking anyway? Do you think you'll go the self-published route again?
I'm not sure. It really just kinda, like, depends on my options, I guess, and what's presented to me, right? Timeline, I'm hoping maybe, like, to have my final or my first draft done by, like, July, and then it'll probably take me until the end of the year to finish. So
Mhm.
maybe a year and a half.
Nice. Okay. Well, we'll keep looking for updates, and where can we look for updates? Where do you, reside on socials and that kinda thing?
I mainly live on Instagram at Amberdean Author, and I have a website as well, amberdeanauthor.com.
Perfect. Well, it was such a pleasure talking with you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, and we cannot wait to see what you have horrifically in store for us in the future.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation.
Yes, awesome. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Amber.
Bye.
Bye.